barbecued spare ribs, black-eyed peas. I don't know, you guys ever heard of the black-eyed pea tradition in New Year's? That's what they do in the South, down in North Carolina and places like that. Of course, up here, or when we were in Ohio and West Virginia, I don't know if it's the same way here, a New Year's tradition is cabbage or greens, something like that. Do you guys do that? You don't do that either? Okay, so you're supposed to, if you do this, you're supposed to have a very prosperous New Year. So we figured we covered all. So we're having black-eyed peas with rice, and we're having barbecued spare ribs, and we're having cabbage rolls, and we're having what else? I don't know what else. For 2 people. So we'll be eating that for about 1 week. So let's go in the New Testament to 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 2. The Apostle Paul, writing to his opening letter to the Corinthian church, said these words, "For I determined not to know anything among you except Jesus Christ and Christ crucified." That's it. I determined to know nothing among you. Just the main thing was that our main focus is Jesus Christ and Christ crucified. So today, I know it's going to be a very interesting subject because I want to talk to you and address you this year. My sermon or message to challenge you for 2024. And I would like to encourage you in this message today to, if you would, lie, cheat, drink, and steal. Actually, it should be lie, drink, cheat, and steal more than you did last year. At the beginning of a new year, it is traditional that we make resolutions. How many made a New Year's resolution last year? Nobody did. Either you're lying or you're just very timid, as most people do. I set out to lose, I think it was 69 pounds. I have 15 more pounds to go, so I didn't lose it all. One guy said he set out his New Year's resolution to lose 50 pounds, and he only had 60 more pounds to go. So most of us, we get all into that time of the year where we're going to say, okay, I'm going to lose so much weight. That's where it starts. At the beginning of a new year, it's a tradition that we make resolutions. Resolutions are promises concerning things that we will try to accomplish in the year to come. Changes that we might need to fulfill. Usually they have to do with losing weight or something such as that. A wise man once made a list, and that's where I got this idea that there are resolutions that will help to ensure that we will have a happy and prosperous new year. In the new year, I want to encourage you as your pastor to lie and to cheat, to drink, and to steal more than you did last year. And I'm serious about that. Number one, I want you to lie more. This last week, I went to my urologist. And those of you that know my story, you know our story. He said he used words that I never wanted to hear in my life. And one of the words that some of his conversation went like this, that with the intestinal infection that I've had, they've done 2 MRIs, And so he said, though the last MRI showed it, but he didn't mention it because he didn't think that much about it. But he said, I do need to bring to your attention that there are 2 lymph nodes that are inflamed and swollen. So he said, I want to send you to an oncologist. And so I didn't like hearing those words. I've seen other people go through it. I've seen people going through it now. He said, and these were optimistic words, he said, I don't believe it is the C word, but he said, we want to make sure, he said, so that if it is, that we can get this thing as soon as possible. So I don't handle, I'm a pretty tough guy, was, but I never wanted to face that scenario in my life. So of course, immediately after I received the news, got on my phone, called Diana. I was a little emotional, and she was telling me and encouraging me, look, there's not going to be anything, and so on and so forth, and there's nothing to worry about it, and we'll deal with it. And she's a very good encourager, and I was wanting to think to myself, well, it's easy for you to say when it's somebody else. But thank God that God does bring people into our lives that are encouragers. I don't know what we would do without them. There are people that are negative. There are people that are positive. There are people that are optimistic. There are people that are misty-optic. And but there are a few things that we haven't the ability to change. It's not within our capacity of W240. Is that what you call it? I think it is WD-40. W2, that's for IRS. I don't like that either. But WD-40 and duct tape. They say that, WD-40 and duct tape can fix about anything. But it really can't. They really can't. They can help. So what do we do this next year that begin to lie? I'm going to say lie, I mean talking about lie back. Just a little more this year. Let a little more life happen to you without so much worry. There are things that I cannot change. I've shared some of those things with you concerning our family. And I've been very concerned about that. Still am concerned about that. But I can't change that. Only God can change and fix things. God is the only one, and He knows the end from the beginning, and He knows the future. He knows what happened yesterday. He knows what's going on today. And He for sure knows what's going on tomorrow. He knows what crisis that we will face this next year, if there are any. I would like to imagine, and I would like to think that there will be no worries, and that, even as we look back on the year of 2022, when we had COVID, and 2021, and it was such a devastating time for so many people. It's a time when I lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot of friends to death. I can't fix what has happened in the past. There's no way that I can fix and I can change. And everything else that has transpired in my past, there's no way I can fix it. Today, it's done. Some people say, hey, let's go back and let's start again. You can't do that. It's like doing a song and somebody says, boy, that's good, let's do it again. You can't do it again, because once you do it, it's done. You can do something else. You can do something similar. But once you've done something, you can't go back and do it again. Every once in a while, and the older I get, they have diminished. They're not as frequent as they used to be. But every once in a while, I would have a dream, especially when I was in my 40s, that I would be on the football field with all these teenage high school players, and I'd still have my pads on at age 40. And I would be competing, I'd be running over those young whippersnappers, and I would be playing my heart out just like I did when I was in high school. I had another recurring dream. It happened several, I don't know if anybody, I've heard that there's several people that have these dreams, is that they dream that they never really graduated from high school. Has anybody ever had that dream? And so it's kind of like I've got to go get this fixed in a dream. But every once in a while I'll stumble across the thing that they call a diploma. And it reminds me of the fact that, hey, I did graduate. But I asked his name was Roman. We were pastoring in Greenwood, Mississippi. Every Wednesday night, we had a beautiful, large facility at Greenwood, beautiful sanctuary, and then educational wing, kitchen, fellowship hall, showers, and we had a gymnasium, a full-size gymnasium. And on Wednesday evening, we would have all of these children to come from the high school to the middle school, elementary school, and we would feed them a little snack, like kind of like we do on Wednesday evenings here. And after they had their learning time and classroom time, they had recreation time. They would play basketball and they would play volleyball and things of that nature. And we would kind of put the younger children down here where the teenagers could actually do. I mean, it was a full-size gymnasium. And we were sitting there, or standing there one time, and one of the gentlemen that was there in the church, his name was Roman. And I looked at Roman, I said, we were watching the children play, and I said, Roman, how would you like to be that age again? And he looked at me and he spoke in that only Mississippi accent way you can do. And he said, no, sir. He says, I've already been there and I've already done that, and I have no desire whatsoever to go back. Wouldn't it be nice to go back and start all over again? Looking back over our life, maybe we've made some financial decisions that they weren't the right financial decisions, and because of that, we're not in the position today that we wish we would have been right now. And we worry about things that we cannot change. We worry about things, many people do, they spend their time worrying. My grandfather was a worrywart. And I have to admit that some of that, Diana, reminds me that sometimes when I get certain news, I kind of have a tendency to have the attributes of my grandfather. But worry will never fix anything. So I encourage you, number one, to lie more in 2024 than you did in 2023. Lie back. Enjoy life. I look at we just spent the time with our little grandchildren, and oh, what a joy that was, and their toys and everything else. And the toys are so advanced nowadays, as beyond, so far beyond when I was a child. And one of the things that London got was a roller coaster, and it's I don't know, some kind of plastic roller coaster, but it's really cool. And so I spent all day on Christmas Day after she opened that. We put it together and everything else. And I'd have to go back and forth, set the roller coaster up, push her down the hill, so on and so forth. Then Charlie wanted in on the action. And Charlie, being just now turning 6 years old, she liked it that Pappy could do it really fast. And then, of course, we had a new puppy. And she was the hit of the Christmas time, family time, in getting into everybody's stuff. And I was telling, I think it was... somebody asked me how the puppy did. Oh, she's a great traveler. But when you let her out of the car, I'm telling you, all havoc breaks loose. Yesterday afternoon, she likes to get into the Christmas tree. Now, Diana, normally, generally speaking, in times past, this Christmas has not been the same for us as prior Christmases. Not because we couldn't afford it. It's not because any of those other things. It's just hard to get in the mood. And I told Diana, as far as I'm concerned, it's just another day. But one of the things that Shiloh was intrigued with was that Diana had, like before, she would put up 5 or 6 Christmas trees. And spend several days doing it and decorating and trains and all these ornaments and these villages and everything else. But all of a sudden, we just kept on procrastinating and never doing anything. So finally, we went on Amazon and we ordered a pre-decorated tree just so Christmas could be Christmas, and we stuck it in the living room, and that was Christmas. And then David's idea was that let's get a new puppy. We got a new puppy. Well, yesterday, Shiloh literally broke the Christmas tree, knocked it over. And Diana didn't handle that very well. She did everything but cuss at that dog and showing her anger. And I want to tell you something. WD-40 nor duct tape, screws, drills, nails, anything else in the world is going to fix that tree. That tree is going to be out in the dumpster this week. So my remedy is this for Diana, is that, Diana, I'm going to buy you a new tree. And we'll probably get a better deal on it. And it'll be in the box. And by next year, Shiloh will be out of her puppy stage where she wants to run all over the house and do whatever. The tree's gone. It can't be fixed. So why sit here today worrying about a stupid Christmas tree instead of what we can do? And there are a lot of things, and one of the very first things that Dave said to me today was that, we were talking about the game and how Ohio State lost and everything else, and I can't fix that. I have some suggestions for next year, but I'll approach next year and I'm just going to lay back and chill. And what has happened, what has transpired. So my there are things in your life that you just have to realize. We've gone through that already here in this church. You have gone through some stuff, right? You've gone through some stuff with your children. You've gone through some stuff, some of them medical issues. Some people are going through those right now. Some people are going through financial issues. Those things, they're past. They're gone. And you can't sit around worrying about what's going to happen next, because as sure as you begin to say, don't ever say these words, what could happen next? Because sure as you say that, something else is going to happen. So what you need to do is take whatever moment of time that you have right now, lay back, take a chill pill, and relax. That was where the Apostle Paul says, something, there are certain things that I just really not concerned about. Says, I didn't really care to know anything about you. The one thing that I'm most concerned about is that Jesus Christ and Christ crucified. And that is enough for me. The things that I can sit around and just spend my time, just think about the things I tell people in counseling is that a lot of times 90% of the things that you worry that could happen, about only 10% of those things ever do happen. So you can worry about things. And then the other thing I would like to talk to you about is like I said, just lie back and relax. Enjoy life, man. Take a deep breath and look and find the positive in situations and the good. And I'm telling you, folks, there's more good than there is evil. There's a lot more good than there is evil. Secondly, cheat. I said, yeah, cheat. Now, I don't like cheating coaches. I don't like people that cheat at checkers, people that cheat at Monopoly, people that cheated. But this is what I encourage you to do: cheat failure. Cheat failure. Don't be afraid to try something new because you think you may fail. Be adventurous. It is through failure that we learn our most valuable lessons. Notice this very carefully. Peter, Jesus looked at him, and we know the story. Jesus got his disciples together and he said, guys, he said, one of you before the rooster crows 3 times, one of you are going to fail me. So Peter pulls Jesus aside and he really trusts him. And he says, Lord, I just want to know one thing. Is it me? Jesus looks at him and says, Peter, I'm afraid so. It's you. Peter says, nah, can't be me. He's talking to the Lord and he says, can't be me. It's one of the other guys. Better go check the other 11 because you know how much I love you. And there's no way that I could fail you, right? Jesus looks at Peter, and this is the thing that always amazes me about Jesus. Because, folks, listen, it's not predestination. It's not anything like that. But listen, God knows if you're going to fail or not. He knows that. He's omniscient. So he knows. And even in your past, when you failed and you did something or I did something that you thought you'd never do. You thought, just like Peter, I can never do that. And because of that, you looked at yourself and you beat yourself up and said, wow, I really did that. And even sometimes we are our own worst enemies because of our past. We look back and we look at things that we've done, maybe things that we've said that we shouldn't have said, maybe the way we've treated someone. It makes you feel really good when you told that person off. But the thing about Jesus is that he looks at Peter in this way and he says, Peter, he says it's inevitable. You're going to fail. Now, if I'm the God of the universe, if I'm the God that can do anything, why didn't Jesus look at Peter and say these, and instead of, why didn't he look and pray that Peter wouldn't fail? And here's an even better, let's drift away from Peter just a little bit and let's go back to Adam. I'm a God that can create anything and I can make it absolutely 100% perfect, right? I mean, God can. And if I'm God, I'm going to make something so perfect that it can't fail. But God created man, and when he created man, he gave him rules that he knew he was going to break. He knew Adam was going to fail. Why did he do that? Why did God create something that had the ability to fail? He did that because when he did that, man could have attained everything himself. But he created him to fail so that when he did fail, he would have to turn to one that could not fail. And there's only one that cannot fail, and that's Jehovah God. So Jesus looks at Peter, and instead of praying for Peter, he says, Jesus, Peter, it's inevitable. You're going to fail. I'm not going to pray that you don't fail, but he says, I'm going to pray that when you do fail, your faith doesn't fail. So don't be afraid that I'm going to, be adventurous. Try something new. The story of Colonel Sanders when he was shoved off the road because the highway was coming through, and when he was in his late 60s, and they took his little chicken restaurant that he had away from him, and he had nothing. And somebody says, Colonel, why don't you try to make this thing and take this thing global? Why don't you try to market it? The rest of it is history. When I was in the Ukraine and Hungary, and we started off in Budapest, Hungary, then we went to the gypsy villages, and then from the gypsy villages in Hungary, we went to the Ukraine. And one of the things that we, when we went to Ukraine, we went to this little restaurant. It was a private restaurant with a private room, and we were the only ones there that were eating. There were about 12 to 15 of us eating, and I ordered steak, and I got a steak dinner for like $1 something in American currency. It's pretty good until I found out later it was horse. But when we came back into Budapest, Hungary, we wanted American food. And guess what we saw in Budapest, Hungary, and where we ate? KFC. At 68 years old, when at my age, when everything was taken away from you and you were wiped out, he was adventurous enough to say, hey, he may have had a little bit of a skeptical attitude to say, I don't know if I can do this or not, but you'll never succeed if you don't try. Does that make sense? It's through failure that we learn the most valuable lessons. Peter learned the lesson, didn't he? Through failure. Then I encourage you to drink. Drink from the water of life, but also drink from the fountain of knowledge. Many people around you have already been down roads you're about to travel. You younger folks could listen to me today. You could learn from the mistakes that other people have made. Take what they have learned and use it. And then make up your mind that you're going to do your best all the time in every situation. And that is all anybody will ever ask. Lastly, today, I'm going to ask for you to steal more in 2024 than you did in 2023. Steal. Time is one of the most valuable things that we have in life. Passes by like a vapor. It's here today, it's gone tomorrow. Do you know that the way it works, that you know how it works, right? 365 days a year. That means that, say for instance, that if Sunday falls this year, if Christmas Day was Sunday, right? So we automatically know, according to our calculation, our mind, everything else, that next year Christmas Day will be on Tuesday, correct? No. It's going to be on Wednesday. Because this year is leap year. So we get one more day. What Hezekiah, when he said, Lord, and it came down to the end of his life, he said, Lord, can you just give me 10 more years? I have some, I don't know if they're selfish, but I've asked the Lord for a certain amount of time in my life. I want to see my grandchildren grow. So they reach maturity and they reach adulthood. I want to see that happen. I want to see a lot of things happen in the ministry. Going to be some changes take place this year. And me. Thinking about the church. I've been thinking about the church the last couple of weeks, especially. You know, what we can do. We've survived a lot. It's not been, I've talked to several pastoral friends of mine over the last, since COVID hit. Everything has changed, ministry-wise. Go through spells. Even now, you can visit, you can't visit. You can visit this one, you can't visit that one. And it's, in time, we have 366 days left until January 1st, 2025. Actually, including today. Well, at midnight, beginning at midnight tonight, after midnight, we'll have 366 days before next year. So here's my challenge to you. How much time have you taken and stolen this last year? How much time have you stolen for God? Where does He fit into your 24-hour schedule? How much time have you spent on television? How much time have you spent doing hobbies? How much time have you spent hunting? How much time have you spent watching ball games? How much time have you see, you only have so much time. And every year I say, you know, I'm probably better than average musician. But I could be a lot better. You know, the thing that causes me to lack from being better? Taking the time, even at my age, to practice. Right, Diane? Learn something new. On that album that you can get on eBay for $69.95, we had studio musicians, which I learned a lot from. Ronnie Millsap's drummer. Our piano player was Elvis's pianist. And before every show, Nick said that Elvis always bought them a gift. Now I'll show you how much power Elvis had. It could be something from a bracelet or something of that nature. And it was a very nice gift. Everybody in the band, all the singers, everybody got a gift. And so one time, there was the night before the show and rehearsal and things of that nature, and he said in his own way, said, you know, I don't know what I'm going to get you guys this year. But I don't know. I think I just might get you a hound dog. You know, you ain't nothing but a hound dog. And they went into the dressing room the next day, and there were all these big, huge, giant boxes. And in these boxes were stuffed hound dogs. Huge stuffed hound dogs. And around each hound dog was a necklace that had the Elvis, insignia on it. And but on that, Nick told us there's something he did. We sang a song. It was an old song. Between the cross, I think it was it. Is that the one he did that? Leaning on the everlasting rock. No, it was leaning on the everlasting rock. So we were trying to come up with, hey, how are we going to do this song? We want to do it different. We want to make it original, do it whatever. So Nick had been messing around with the piano, and when he messed around with the piano, that morning he had come up with a lick. And he said, what do you guys think about doing this and taking this lick, and let's do this. Dun, 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 dun. Through my disappointments, trials and discontentment. So he said, so I said, hey, that works. We like that. So here's what he said. He said this. He said, when I learn something new or something comes to me, he says, I try to implement it as soon as possible, and incorporate it into something that I know. He said, because if I do, generally speaking, I'll never forget it. So, still time, a little time for God. Every day, every single day, take a little more time to develop your relationship with God. Get you a devotional. Very first thing that I do, ever since we did our daily devotional page, the very first thing I do every morning before I turn the television on or anything else, I read the daily devotion. And it gives me food for thought. I mean, I don't do anything. Well, I do. I stick my K-cup in the coffee cup, and then I go read my devotion. And after I read my devotion, I pray. Then I go drink my coffee, turn on a little bit of news, watch that. But still a little bit more time. It's there. It's the most precious commodity that we have right now in life is time. Wouldn't it be great? Would you like to know that you have a guarantee of 366 days? But the odd thing about it is this: we don't have any guarantee. We don't have any guarantees of tomorrow. We don't have any guarantees. So, with the year ending that I've had, the news about my daughter and her family, and the news I received Thursday, I think of what Dave Hutch is going to do. I'm just going to lie back. Then I'm going to cheat. I'm not going to sit around and wait for something bad to happen or be afraid to try something. I'm going to try something new, and I'm going to try to learn something new. Musically, I'm going to try to commit myself to going back to where I was younger and memorizing more scriptures, knowing exactly where they are. I have a good memory, and it's slipping sometimes. I walk into a room. Anybody else have that problem? Forget why you walked into the room. And then I'm going to drink. And I'm going to cheat. I'm going to steal. I'm going to steal a little bit more time for God and for my talents and things of that nature, and devote more time for things that are more profitable rather than just enjoy life. Take a deep breath. When you take a deep breath, just realize that the God This universe allowed that, and enjoy it. I love you. Diane and I wish all of you the happiest, most wonderful, prosperous year that you could possibly have. As a church, let's take all these principles. Let's do the things that we can do and not worry about the things that we cannot do. Let's love on each other more than we have in times past. Let's grow together. Let's drink together.